Another week and another round of raid ups has hit us over here on the JP side of things. Again, I'm going to go over all of the banners that we just got for our huge Grand Servant campaign that is kind of just going for this spring era that we have over here. Whether you are on the JP side of things and you want to know whether or not these banners are worth rolling for, or if you're on the NA side of things and you're trying to plan out your clairvoyance. One of the other things that I did want to go ahead and document though is that you can see in the bottom left that we have had our master level updated to level 180 being our max, which doesn't really affect me over here on JP, but over on NA where I'm max level, that is actually a little bit exciting. Hopefully eventually one day that actually means something. You know, can you imagine we finally get to, you know, master rank 200, we get like a little damage boost, or finally get to max out our team cost, but that's besides the point. Just wanted to kind of go over that one. But alter egos are on raid up over here for this week, and it looks like they were able to get all of them on raid up, and this is a little bit funny because of how the 4 stars and the 3 stars work out. If you are trying to get your extra copies of Passionlip, or for what other just ungodly reason you do not have your Jufu finished, this is going to be a great time to get those done because they're pretty much the only low rarity characters that are going to be available on any of these banners. So realistically, unlike say the Archer, the Saber one, we got to plan out, oh, which one's got Bedivere on it, or maybe I'm missing out on, I don't know, Siegfried or Emiya or whatever, like 4-star servant. For alter egos, you're pretty much going to be safe going for any of these banners if those characters are ones that you're trying to complete. But the alter ego banners over here are actually quite powerful. As you can see, the first one over here has Melt on it, who is already really strong over there on the NA side of things, but if you're unaware, she did recently receive a buff to her NP, making her one of the strongest single targets in general on the game, just not even as a quick servant, but just in general, making her extremely powerful and pretty much completing her kit. So yeah, this is a pretty easy shoe-in that if you just need, I don't know, a decent single target for any reason that you want them to take out any rider, assassin, caster. I mean, I think they're also super effective against foreigners themselves, berserkers as well. She will be able to absolutely mop them up for you. I don't think this is a bad banner to go on at all whatsoever, and would probably personally be summoning on this banner if I didn't get super lucky when she got her buff and was able to snag 2 copies of her on back-to-back singles. So I think this banner in and of itself is ridiculously strong. I mean, I really don't see any downsides for going for somebody like Melt unless some crazy servant comes out in the next couple of weeks. You know, that sparkling caster that got announced, maybe she does turn out to be one of the most godly supports in the game, or maybe she turns out to be one of the best farmers in the game for whatever reason. You know, maybe that's a reason to go ahead and save, but that's why NA has their clairvoyance, right? Like, that's why they have all this precognition to be able to see whether or not these banners are going to be worth going for. But as of right now, really OP banner to go for just because of how strong Melt is. Kiara is also ridiculous over here on the JP side of things. She kind of does have the demerit that everybody remembers back to like year 2 when she came out, where it's like, well, an NP1 Kiara is not really going to be able to do that much damage. You need to get her to like NP3. Not really the case here anymore. Kiara is not only able to output really good damage, even at NP1, I would say it's still sufficient if you're going to be using her as a DPS. She can, funnily enough, still be your farmer as well. That is something that I feel like not a whole lot of people actually talk about, because they went through and they buffed her 3rd skill. I already thought it was really good in and of itself, but they were like, well, what if we just like gave her an additional battery, and what if we just tossed her a power mod? Because those are things that Kiara is lacking, right? And so not only is she running into boss fights, just yeeting everybody's buffs, you know, pretty much being able to heal herself every time she drops an NP, but now for some reason her 3rd skill is truly a goddess metamorphosis skill that is just letting her go sick, nasty, you know, just goated with the sauce mode. I don't really know what to call it, because it was one of those buffs that I really didn't think Kiara needed. I mean, this is a really funny back-to-back where it's just like, yeah, man, if you want a really good single target, go for Melt. She's dummy broken. If you want a really good AoE for either farming or either going in on bosses that maybe have additional guys just sitting around, or I mean, you could just use her against single enemies as well. That's what I'll do over here as well on occasion. She's just really good. These are really good banners to be summoning on. Either one of these would be great additions to your Chaldea. Again, the only reason you wouldn't go for these is that maybe, you know, in the next like couple of days when we actually get the details for the new Sparkling Caster Servant, she does turn out to be dummy broken, but at the same time, if you're on the NA side of things and we find out that that caster doesn't turn out to be dummy broken, then when these banners come out, you are more than free to just go ahead and summon on these banners. You know, you have the seal of approval. Now, Okita Alter over here, I think is really interesting because I think I am one of her greatest defenders in using this character. That is probably because every time she comes back around, she just gives me a free additional copy for whatever reason. I literally cannot keep the servant out of my Chaldea, which I guess is a good problem to have, but I'm never really summoning for her. I'm always trying to go for copies of like Izo or something, and then I always end up with a copy of Okita Alter. But if you're trying to get yourself a Buster AoE servant, you know, you want somebody for farming or whatever have you, she is actually pretty good. Like, she's not too bad, but there are definitely better options out there. I mean, it would be a little disingenuous of me to say that, like, oh, this could be your great Buster AoE farmer, when people like, you know, Kukulkan exist, people like Arjuna Alter exist. We do have these really just dummy OP servants running around that are probably going to take that Buster AoE slot from her. But if you don't have anybody else, I do think she is fine. Her kit is a little basic, I would say. I mean, it's just like, all right, we're just going to be doing Buster and quick damage, which, to be fair, does work out if you also have, like, say, someone like Ruler Scotty, I guess. That can be kind of nice to pair her with, but realistically, probably not the best character to be going for. I would say if you're looking for a Buster farmer, she is kind of all of the basic essentials you would have. But again, as I mentioned, there are better Buster AoE servants that you should be going for. So unless you really like Okita Alter, which, again, when she kind of keeps coming to your Chaldea, in my case, you know, she does kind of grow on you a little bit, probably not worth going for. But if you do really like her, she's not bad. And who knows, maybe they'll toss her another buff whenever we get some Gouda event in, like, well, whenever it happens this year. Who knows? Sometimes it happens at the beginning of the year, and then sometimes it happens at the end. So not a bad banner, but definitely not as good as going for someone like Melt or Kiara. Then we have Sitonai over here, who they did give her a little bit of a buff, and, you know, I'm a bit of a contrarian, so, you know, whenever she initially dropped over here on the NA side of things, I was like, nah, Sitonai is actually not that bad. She's not deserving of the moniker that she's, you know, gotten for herself, but definitely not the craziest servant, and they did try to toss her a buff to fix her up a little bit, which I do think makes her a lot more runnable, per se. But again, I think those servants that are getting buffs that are trying to fix them are not as good as the servants that are already good, like, say, somebody like Melt or Kiara, that then receive a ridiculous buff on top of that. It just makes them more worth going for. But she is a single target art servant that, if you're hurting for that in particular, I guess she kind of can fit that niche for you. The only issue is that, you know, we had rulers before this, and Yasugi Kenshin or Big Kagetora was able to come out for that. So if you need a single target art servant, you should have summoned for her instead of Sitonai over here. But who knows, maybe you just think Ilya's really funny. You know, maybe you just think the Sitonai, whenever she like pulls up and she's just like super smug or whatever, maybe you're like, nah, that's my jam, that's hilarious. Then in that case, I guess the buff to her makes her a little bit more runnable, but realistically not a banner that I would recommend summoning on. King Protea is also really interesting in that fashion, because King Protea is not bad. Like, her gameplay style is, you know, amassing a lot of reduction against enemy NPs, getting a lot of base max HP, so she becomes really big, and effectively the enemies can't one-shot her. It's not a gameplay style that I'm a huge fan of, but it is not bad. You know, just because I don't enjoy sitting there getting huge over the course of like 10 turns, doesn't mean it's not a bad strategy. I just think there are better ways to go about completing boss fights, or even going through like farming nodes and whatever have you. And so it's not my preferred method of clearing things. You know, I'd rather just do big numbers and try to clear things as quickly as possible. But if that is your cup of tea, if that is something that you do like to do, then it's definitely not a bad servant to go for, because she's kind of the only character that really does it like she does it. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a whole lot of other servants that are doing exactly what King Protea is doing. You know, reducing the damage that she's going to be taking from enemy NPs so she can't get one tap by them, and then just amassing so much HP that she's effectively not going to get one shot by anything. So if that is your cup of tea, then maybe go for this character. But it is one that I would recommend that maybe bring a friend's King Protea to a boss fight or something, test out the style of gameplay, see if you do like it before going for King Protea yourself. Then we have Douman. Now, Douman, again, is where we're starting to loop back to some really effective, powerful servants. You'll see Douman in a lot of team comps where you're trying to maximize damage for characters, and that is because Douman is buffing all of your chaotic and your evil servants, right? If you want them to be doing big fat crits, big fat damage with the attack buffs, then this is definitely a guy that you would like to have on your account. Plus, who doesn't like Douman in just the various Lost Build story chapters? I mean, guy is just a menace for absolutely no reason, and you gotta respect it in some capacity. But if you're not trying to go for min-maxing on your chaotic and or evil characters, or you're not going to be using him as your quick farmer, then there really is no reason to go for this character outside of you just really like them. And so you can maybe weigh your options on, well, my favorite character is, you know, regular Artoria. Well, I'm not really going to get to use Douman with her very much. Maybe that helps you, you know, make your decision as to whether or not you want to summon for them or not. But if you are a fan of crazy evil women like myself, then Douman might actually be a really good pickup on your account. That's kind of what this one boils down to. Bazette, I kind of just talked about over there on the NA video because she just came back on Raid Up for their Valentine's Day. Pretty much everything still applies for her. Again, like King Protea, nobody really does what Bazette does, in the fashion that Bazette is the only servant we have that really does counter damage. I guess you could say that Angra Mainyu also does counter damage, but come on, let's be real. Does Angra Mainyu really do counter damage? Like, how many times have you seen that guy do a counter and it does 0 damage? I mean, I know I've seen that a non-zero amount of times. So Bazette over here is just giving herself all of the bare essentials. She gives herself a really good, just solid card buff. She gives herself crit damage, 50% battery, survivability, taunts everybody to herself, and then smack, smack, boom, boom, takes out the enemy. I mean, just a really strong, effective servant that also, as an alter ego, specifically goes after casters because she has a little power mod added into her kit. So not only is she going to be really effective in taking out, you know, your riders, your assassins, your berserkers, I believe it's like other alter egos and foreigners are what alter egos are super effective against, but she'll also be extremely effective at downing other casters. I think if you also have something like, what is it, like Origin Bullet, I think is the CE that further increases your damage against enemy casters, she can just be really nasty. But don't think for a second that that means that she is pigeonholed into only fighting casters. She just really eviscerates them, but she's going to be eviscerating everybody else that you bring her into. There is an advanced quest that we get for fighting Hercules, and it's pretty tough. You either need to stall it out or you need to take out all of his lives, and he's giving himself just various buffs as the fight goes on. And Bazette is really good at speed running through that because not only could she take out a life on her turn, but also when Herc is attacking into her, she can also down more lives. So for stuff like that, I mean, she's still very effective in some of these harder fights. So again, can't really sing this character's praises enough. She is very, very strong. And then we cut over to Super Bunyan, which, I don't know, man, unless you're just a really big fan of like American folklore or you just really like learning with manga, there is no reason to be going for this banner. I realistically don't think she's as bad as she's kind of earned a reputation for, you know, garnering for herself, but I still don't think that means that she's actually low-key dummy good. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, look, this character might not be like a 1 out of 10 that everybody says they are, but even if they are just more of a 4 out of 10, that doesn't mean they're worth summoning for, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, just because they're not this complete dud servant doesn't mean they're actually that good. It's just, I think they might be a little bit stronger than that, but not actually still a good servant. So I would just avoid this one with a plague. I'm not really going to be dignifying this banner unless you, again, you really like Super Bunyan for whatever reason. I would avoid this one, not worth going for. Kiara over here, I think, is a fairly interesting servant. For one, you can almost kind of get into this position where you just loop infinite guts, which is kind of like a King Protea thing, but might be better in some scenarios, because if you're looping infinite guts, you know, then you really can't die outside of your guts being removed, as opposed to, you know, King Protea, maybe you can get caught while you're trying to set yourself up. So that's kind of an argument for him. You can also use him as your arts looper as opposed to being a buster looper, right? I guess that is kind of something, but realistically, Kiara, I know, is one of those servants that you're either going to be summoning on this banner because you really like Kiara, or you're not going to be summoning on this banner because you don't like Kiara. Like, there really is no convincing people when it comes to this servant, because, I mean, it's Kiara. Like, you either really like the guy or you don't like the guy, you know, and that's going to affect whether or not you're going to be summoning on this banner or not. So I will let your inner priest come out for that one, or I'll let you shelve your inner priest if you're not going to be summoning on this one. We have Tiamat, which might be pretty major for people on the NA side of things, seeing that she's getting another rate up in about 2 years, pretty much exactly 2 years from now. And Tiamat, I will say, is one of those characters that if you do have like the buster supports in your account is pretty nice. Like, she is pretty good. Being able to be a black grail farmer that can just really easily wield black grail is always going to be very, very... Did I say black grail farmer? Buster farmer that can use black grail. My bad. It's really early in the morning when they drop these things, but being able to wield black grail as a buster farmer from people like Melusine and Archetype Earth, you already know is extremely powerful. So she has that, but she's an alter ego, so she covers, again, all of your bases on riders, casters, assassins, zergs, and even the random odd extra class servant. So she's really good for that. Isn't really rocking any power mods, and her other skills are a little weird to say the least, but she is just very good at smacking people for really big damage. So if you need somebody, if you don't have somebody that is a buster AoE servant, Tiamat can fill that role rather well. I do think though, unless they toss her something in the future, she might fall off a bit because of the fact that, you know, typically you do want to have some of your power mods and stuff. You do want your characters to have some kind of niche or some reason to bring them to specific nodes, but even as someone over here on JP who doesn't have Koyenskaya or Oberon, at least for the moment, right? You know, whenever they bring out assassins, I'll definitely be getting my Koyenskaya, right? Surely this time. But even with someone without those, she still is able to put in a lot of work for me. Like, just as someone that can just do a mountain of damage is extremely effective over here. So I do think she's one of those servants that is not bad to pick up, which is probably reassuring to hear because Tiamat is super popular. Because look, they might not be showing it on the banner art, but we've all seen the third ascension. We all know the main reason you're going to be summoning for Tiamat. Like, I'm not going to say it, but I'm looking at you watching this video. I know the real reason you're going for Tiamat, all right? I see you. These characters I've been actually using more frequently as of late. I actually really like them. I think it's like something like Nosora or something along those lines, I believe is what their name is. I can never get it down correctly. I just know that they are the Type Moon like website people that they decided to turn into a servant, right? And the more that I've been using them, the more that I've actually really been liking them. They've been really nice just going into like various nodes now that I've actually pulled Ruler Scotty. They've been really effective farmers for, again, any stages that alter egos are going to be useful against, and I really have no complaints about them, right? Their NP animation is also pretty good. I mean, that's not really relevant to how good they are, but hey, I just like it. You know, it's something to point out there. You know, maybe it does influence whether or not you summon for them, but I can definitely say that if you are looking for an AoE quick servant, this is probably one of the more effective ones to be going for. I do really like them a lot. Them being able to pretty much take care of themselves while also able to give some buffs to the party as well is also really nice. It does kind of put them in weird contention though with the last alter ego, Kazuradrop over here, because man, we just get a lot of quick AoE servants. I don't know if it's just the fact of they don't want to put out a new quick support type servant, or they just want to try to keep making the quick AoE servants as bonkers as possible to try to get around that, but we do get a lot of quick AoE servants, right? Not only do we get I'm just going to call them Sora and hope that's correct, but then we got, you know, Kazuradrop over here, and then we also got Lohai at the very end of the year. And I definitely think the more we went on, the more effective they got, with Lohai effectively being a servant you could bring to pretty much any stage because of the fact that she would start buffing everybody else's, you know, NP. You know, bringing two of them meant you could effectively lock down two different nodes and then, you know, buff the other one with whatever random support you have and then to be able to clear it. Like, she's just really, really strong. Kazuradrop kind of plays in the same way, where you could bring double Kazuradrop and almost use that as the Kazuradrop system, right? Instead of doing the double Scotty system. And I will be honest with people, I've watched a little bit of it, but I haven't been able to play with it too much myself because I obviously didn't pull Kazuradrop. I did get it on my alt, but my alt no longer exists. I tried to put it on a second instance of an emulator on my PC, and I guess that was a bridge too far. They're like, look, you can play on your PC with, you know, the LD player, but you try to have that mirror a second instance and try to toss your account over there, and then everything exploded. So I will say that while I do think Kazuradrop is very strong from the little bit of testing I've been able to do with her here and there, I can't give you the full picture on the whole like double Kazuradrop thing and how good that actually is, but if it is even remotely as good as, say, like the double low-high system, then I would say this is an effective character to go for. So some people in the comments that have maybe played a little bit more with Kazuradrop might be able to help me out on this one, because this is the only character that I really haven't used too much. But that is all of the alter egos that have come back on Raid Up over here on the JP side of things. Almost at NA side of things, but yeah, it's really funny to me because we have just Passionlip and Jufu on every single one of these. I could have sworn we had other like 4-star alter egos. Like, I could have sworn they existed, but I'm pretty sure all of the 4-star alter egos are just free to plays, because it's you know, the Mecha Lizzes, right? And then I'm pretty sure that's, and then like Taisui, I think that's all the other 4-star alter egos. So I don't know, maybe this is like a wake-up call for Lysengo to put out more alter egos that are like lower rarity. I'm sure they definitely could do that, but like, I don't know, Summer or something, maybe toss some of those guys out, because this is just so goofy. But this was one of the ones that, unlike, say, when you're looking at the like Saber or Archer one, this is one that actually just is pretty much packed with power, which is ironic to say when Sitonai is on there. Because if you want me to go through and just say which banners I think are worth rolling for, I think Melt is worth rolling for, Kiara is worth rolling for, I think Bazette is very much worth rolling for, and then like what's their face? Probably Kazuradrop over here. Those are just characters off the top of my head that will be good pretty much everywhere. Like, they will immediately be good. Some of the other ones, right, like Sora, are really good, but you do already need established quick supports on your account. Same thing for Tiamat, that if you have Buster supports on your account, they get better. You know, people like Rasputin or King Protea need other characters around them to help facilitate their gameplay. So it does kind of depend. But again, you just have a good smattering of strong options, which again is ironic as I stop on on Super Bunyan. But let me know if you're playing the JP side of things, which one of these banners you're going to personally be rolling for. And if you are on the NA side of things, let me know which one of these banners you might be taking the challenge and rolling for, because you want to make them your grand servant. Personally, I think I'm kind of fine on all of these because I think I have all the characters I want, but we shall see what the future holds for us over here on the NA side of things, and what alter egos I'm able to pull moving forward, which again, ominous ending it off on the Douman screen. But with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. You guys have a nice day, and I'll catch y'all later. I already said that, but bye.